This is Tom Dillon, the Lifetime Liberal, and today is Monday, December 19th, 2016. The title of this rant will be The Will of the People and Subversion by the GOP. Now, the definition of subversion is active involvement in degrading the government and subverting the government from within. And that's exactly what the GOP is doing. Now, the Electoral College is going to meet today. The Electoral College will vote and confirm Mr. Minority as president. That will happen. But let's take a look back at what's gone on and what we have right now. And I'm not saying that this can change right away, but right now we do not have that true concept of one woman, one vote. So if we have the state of California, which has 38 million people, they have 2 senators. We have the state of Montana, which has less than 1 million people, and they have 2 senators. And we have the District of Columbia, which has more people than the state of Montana. They have 0 senators and a non-voting representative in the House of Representatives. That's not equal in any way, shape, or form. Now, I believe that most of that's part of the Constitution, so I'm not saying that that can be amended or amended right away. But let's just at least acknowledge that that's not happening. And let's also acknowledge that 7 of the last presidential elections, the majority of the people have voted for the Democratic candidate. And what we are seeing right now is the GOP is using the fact that they have some inherent advantages through the Constitution to basically actively destroy the United States of America. So they're destroying it from within because they are acting not with the conscience of the people of the United States, but with their own self-idiotic interests and always having party first, country second. So we all know that Hillary won almost 3 million more votes than Mr. Minority. At the same time, we know that Russia and the FBI were actively working not to get Mrs. Clinton elected President of the United States, and that vast majorities of these Republicans are okay with Russia doing this. And because their approval of Putin has gone up since before the election up till now, let's just say. So as long as he was willing to help them hurt Hillary Clinton, it was okay. Even if the way that he hurt Mrs. Clinton technically is an act of war. And let's all remember that even though Mr. Minority has been touting what a great leader Putin is, even though he says he doesn't agree with him, he says he knows how to control his people. Let's just remember that Putin has been a very, very bad actor on the international stage almost since he came in. Remember, he invaded Georgia in 2008. He took over the Crimea. He has technically invaded the Ukraine in 2014. That a commercial airliner going to somewhere in Asia, I believe it was not India, Pakistan, I don't know, was shot down over airspace in the Ukraine with Russian weaponry, which they determined had recently been sent to the rebels in the Ukraine. He is active with Assad al-Ashar in Syria, indiscriminate bombing in Aleppo. He is a very, very bad actor. And this is the only way, this is the cheapest way that he can try and influence anything overseas. And he's been active doing this in Europe quite a bit also. And one of the things that has happened recently is the Obama administration is sending additional troops towards the east. Well, let's call it the Eastern Front. Eastern Front of Russia by sending more troops over to protect Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania and other areas over there to let the Russians know, hey, even though there's a transition coming up, we know what type of stuff you've been doing, and we're going to let you know that we're going to be prepared for it. Now, again, I said that what Putin did and the Russian government did was an act of war, and the GOP has not done basically. They've sort of just accepted it. They haven't come out right and said anything against it. And really, the press hasn't really done their job in all of that. But let's get back to the fact that Hillary won 3 million more votes. What is the will of the people? Or what's going to be coming up in the administration of Mr. Minority? Well, I'll tell you what's not going to come up is there's not going to be an increase in the minimum wage, even though a vast majority of Americans, even those that voted for Mr. Minority, are in favor of it. We are not going to see an increase in global, the acceptance of global climate change and a rapid, let's just say, deterrence to be put in to work against global climate change. We have global climate change denying by this people. Again, the vast will of the American people is that we need to address global climate change. We need to address it quickly. And of course, a vast majority also believes the EPA should be in charge of clean water and clean air in the United States, and they should have the authority to do that. There will not be comprehensive immigration reform. There will not be a wall either. Let's put it that way. That's not going to happen. But there will not be comprehensive immigration reform. There will not be a path to citizenship. There will not be Dreamers. There will not be DAPA. That's all going to get cut out by this administration, even again, as the vast majority of Americans wish that this would come into being. I'm not saying I have all of the answers how someone would actually become a citizen, but we cannot have that 11 million plus people continue to live in the shadows. We must find a way to make it happen. Another thing that's not going to happen in this administration, there is not going to be any type of an increased assessment on the rich. There's not going to be a reduction in the carried interest loophole that the hedge fund managers have right now, where they have 15% assessment, whereas their secretaries have 32% or 35%, whatever that is. It's almost double. That's not going to happen. We're not going to have a transaction assessment on high-speed trading on Wall Street. We're not going to have we're not going to have the inherited wealth assessment kept. It's probably going to be dropped. Again, the vast majority of Americans do not want any of this to happen. They want an increase in the assessment on the rich. Also, a vast majority of Americans, again, both parties all the way around, want an increase in gun safety laws. A vast majority of Americans want a decrease in the voter identification law so that all Americans can vote, because the number of instances of I believe it's called voter fraud, it's just so minuscule. It's a ruse by the Republicans to get this voter ID laws, to have voter disenfranchisement where they keep large amounts of people unable to vote because of this. And again, none of this will happen in the administration of Mr. Minority. Even though Hillary won by almost 3 million votes in a parliamentary system, she would be the prime minister, whatever you want to call it, by that. So it is a patriotic duty of all of those who were adamant that they did, when they did not vote for Mr. Minority, to be very active and to be patriotic. It is patriotic to resist every single thing about those 5 or 6 issues which I just mentioned, that Mr. Minority and his administration will not be doing anything about. And of course, these are all vital things, very important things that we need to address, and we need to address right now. Resistance against Mr. Minority is a patriotic duty.